Hello, in this discussion video, I will be discussing historical scholarship. Using the History Jerry Falwell Library database, I located the Oxford Scholarship Online database and the Project Muse database. From there, I was able to find 3 sources that I could use for my preferred research plan. One of the sources I found via Project Muse was a 2005 article in MLN from Stuart Simmel entitled British Uses for Napoleon. Another source I found via Project Muse was a 2021 article in the Tocqueville Review entitled Tocqueville, Napoleon, and History Writing in a Democratic Age by David A. Bell. The final source I found came from the Oxford Scholarship Online database. It is a chapter entitled Byron, Napoleon, and Imaginative Freedom from the 2008 book Liberty and Poetic License, New Essays on Byron by John Clubb. Tocqueville proposed a distinction between the ways history is recorded in aristocratic and democratic eras in democracy in America. In the former, historians place a high value on the activities of people. In the latter, they place a high value on huge impersonal forces that operate on the masses. In light of these observations, the article analyzes Tocqueville's opinions on Napoleon Bonaparte. Bell states that, quote, Tocqueville was tempted to see Napoleon as someone whose astonishing deeds not only raised him far above ordinary humans, but who could lift his country out of somnolence, corruption, and pettiness. Throughout his adult life, Tocqueville lamented the mediocrity into which France perennially threatened to fall. It's from Bell, page 46. While he tried to synthesize these two methods of historical writing, Tocqueville essentially assessed the actions taken by Napoleon as shaped by the influences of democratic egalitarianism and change. According to Simmel, quote, Napoleon unsettled the traditional contrast and even the revised revolutionary ones. He seemed to defy categorization or to inspire contradictory classifications. Simmel, page 735. While most British historians have studied how Napoleon was used as a uniting figure, a monolithic monster for the British public to rally around, king and country, Simmel explores the way Napoleon was used by radical thinkers to critique the British government and how, quote, Napoleon served as a counter-king, an alternative model of rule whose example radically challenged British constitutional practice. It's also Simmel's page 735. Simmel posits that, quote, British radicals sensed a rhetorical opportunity. To a surprising degree, they would use the figure of the French emperor as a lens through which to scrutinize the failings of the British government, and a cudgel with which to beat it. Also, page 735. The noted reformer William Cobbett remained steadfast in his admiration for Napoleon. Quote, sympathy for Napoleon was one of the several ways in which Cobbett's newfound radicalism manifested itself. Page 736. Quote, Cobbett praised elements of Napoleon's regime in order to spotlight British problems, end quote, including religious freedom and trial by jury that Napoleon had introduced. It's Simmel's page 737. When Napoleon was made emperor through plebiscite, it forced British conservatives to re-examine their support of the Germanic Hanoverian dynasty and recast the never-elected King George III as legitimate while decrying the popularly elected Napoleon as a usurper and pretender. The chapter titled Byron, Napoleon, and Imaginative Freedom from Clubb's manuscript on Lord Byron delves into Byron's Napoleonic fixation. Napoleon captured Byron's imagination primarily as a massive, if imperfect, human being and as a parallel figure against whom to judge his own progress and growth. Byron saw himself mirrored in Napoleon, who demonstrated to Byron, for better or worse, what he could become. Byron regarded himself as Napoleon at times, and as Napoleon's successor at others. He immersed himself in a romanticized version of Napoleon. Quote, one reason Napoleon riveted Byron is because he appeared to live life with such intensity, which prompted Byron into mimicry and hero worship. The almost incomprehensible vitality of his own life was modeled largely on his own imaginative reconstruction of the most passionate men of his day. End quote. It comes from Clubb, page 183. Byron was not alone in his admiration of Napoleon. Goethe, who actually had an audience with the emperor, was an ardent supporter of Napoleon. Beethoven initially dedicated his Third Symphony to the first consul, Bonaparte. That was, of course, before tearing the dedication from the sheet music once he heard of Napoleon's assumption of the imperial purple in 1804. Quote, throughout this period, Napoleon, as symbolic inheritor of the French Revolution, as Europe's dominant figure, as human colossus, alternatively entranced and repelled others as well as Byron. Looking at Napoleon through their eyes, probing their words and images, hones our understanding of Byron's own obsession. Even those who abhorred Napoleon, who rejected vehemently what he stood for, who fought him tooth and nail, found themselves mesmerized by the man and the huge swath he cut through history. Quotation comes from page 184 of Clubb's book. Even in defeat, Napoleon cast an enormous shadow over 19th century history, philosophy, and politics. Quote, both as a man of action and as a human exemplar, Napoleon remained the perfect hero. End quote, page 186. Many of the leading 19th century figures, including Garrett and Thomas Jefferson, kept busts of Napoleon in their studies. Quote, the busts were there not because these individuals thought Napoleon, in Aldous Huxley's phrase, the world's most spectacular militarist, but because they thought him a genius. End quote, page 186. Thank you.